Hey kids, Grandpa here. Gonna do something a little different, something that you don't normally see me do, but I'm gonna do it anyway. One of the things that I cook well is a beef stew. So I thought I'd just show you guys my beef stew recipe. How would that be? I'm gonna do a little cooking episode here on Grandpa's farm. There's always something that needs fed up here on Grandpa's farm in Alaska. A place where you're always welcome. Come on, Lily, let's go feed. What I'm doing right now is I'm cutting up some beef chuck. I wish it was moose meat. I really do. But unfortunately, we have yet to get a moose. So for now, we're just using some beef chuck. And what I do is I cut the chuck up into, bite-size. Well, my bite-sized pieces. Might be a little big for most people. But I cut it up into big pieces, okay? Alright, so that goes in there. And next, we're going to add flour. Now I have a tiny little kitchen. I have a tiny little kitchen area. Because all of this, everything has to fit into a 16 by 16 foot cabin. So this is the extent of my countertop, my pantry, and my kitchen areas. What you see right here, plus I got a refrigerator over my left shoulder. And on the other side of the room, I have a rack that has pots, pans, dishes, glasses. Plus I have a microwave and a toaster oven. So, but as you can see, I have a fully equipped kitchen. I've got a food processor and a mixer and a popcorn popper and all that kind of fun stuff. So, anyhow, I got my beef stew and I got my flour in there. Now it's time for spices. I am heavy on spices. So I'll put a little thyme in. I don't measure, by the way, anything. It's all just experience. A little oregano. Oregano. Get some basil. A little basil. And I think that might do it. I'm going to add a touch of celery salt. Just because I like the flavor of that. And I'm going to add some garlic powder. Just because I like the taste of that too. Okay, so now all I do is just sort of mix that up. Just get it all tossed in here. So you can kind of see what I'm dealing with. I just sort of make sure that the meat is coated in the flour and all of the seasonings. Okay, that is done. Take my towel, wipe my hand off again. All right. Now we get the oil going. Now I use a heavy metal pot, and I don't know what size that is. 8 quart maybe 8 quart. And I just put about 1/8 of an inch of olive oil, not the EVOO, but just regular olive oil. I like the strength of the regular olive oil. Anyhow, I put that in there. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and let that heat up for a minute. We'll be right back. Okay, well, as you can see, we got our oil too hot, which is very typical for me. So now I'm going to cool it off by throwing a bunch of meat in there all at once. Now, when you're making beef stew, one of the key components to this is do not overload the pan. You got to keep it room in there. Get my tongies. By the way, these tongs, best tongs I have ever owned. Ever. Love them. I have a lighter pair here. These are also good, but these bigger ones are much better for a lot of stuff. Alright, so we put the meat in here and we brown it. We give it a good sear and a good fry in the oil. I don't know if I can get you guys to see what that looks like in there, but let me try it. See, we get a good sear there in the oil. Alright, welcome back to where you was at. Here we go. Oh, perfect. So we just want to roll this around until we get it good and brown. And then once we get some color on this, we're going to then move it into this little dish to set off to the side. And then we'll start the Holy Trinity in here, which is carrots, onions, and celery. Celery. I don't have any celery. Guess I'm going to the store. Hey kids, okay. So now the next step, we got all of our meat cooked. And we got it all done, so it's all ready to go. We got a good brown on it. Now we have to put together the Holy Trinity. And the idea here is to get a little bit of the vegetables finely cut up into the bottom of the pan to kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan. So first thing we do is we clean out our celery, make sure everything's good and clean, trim off the bottoms, and then trim off the tops. All of the scrappies go to the pigs. So now here the key is we want to do this really, really fine. We want really small pieces, not very big at all. So I'm cutting it so that we have just little pieces of celery about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch in size. And we're going to want to get here about a, I don't know, maybe a cup. I just cut up 2 stalks. I find 2 stalks is usually the right amount. And yes, I'm using a fillet knife because, well, it's the sharpest knife I got right now. I got to sharpen knives. And when you do 2 stalks at once, you really got to be careful to go through and get all of the make sure you get both sides of it, because sometimes you don't cut all the way through neatly. Alright, that one's got a bad spot. That one's for the cook. Next, onion. Now, I'm sorry. Onion is just stupid simple. I'm amazed, though, at how many people can't cut a simple onion. So let me show it to you real easy. Cut the bottom off. Scrap. Divide it in 2. Peel. I just peel off the outer layer. That goes into the pot for the critters. Pigs aren't big fans of onions, but surprisingly, sometimes they just are in the mood for them. So, anyhow, got that done. Now, get that up off there. So here's what I do. I make little cuts all around the onion. Now see, the onion is away from me now. All the cut part is isolated from me. So none of it's coming back up into my eyes. And now that I've got that all cut up that way, I can real easy go through and make about as fine a dice as I care to, just by controlling how much of that I cut that. You see how easy that was? And there I got a nice finely diced onion. Again, you don't want to cut all the way through. In other words, you want to cut up to but not through the top. So you want to get real close to it but not all the way through. And I just make, 6 or 8 cuts all the way around. And then I can cut it up into fine dice, and I'm not crying. It's not affecting my eyes at all. Okay? Real easy to do an onion. Alright, let me move you back. Alright. Our pan's getting hot again. Good. I actually want... I don't know. Is that enough? It's a little light on the onion, but we're going to let that go. And we're going to have carrots. Now, guys, you are noticing something here that you don't normally see old Grandpa do. And that is buy onion, celery, carrots from the store. I normally raise my own. In fact, I consider it a walk of shame to have to go to the grocery store to buy this stuff. But, unfortunately, it just is what it is. And these guys are just bouncing all over the place, so let me do this carefully here. Get that turned down till I get the carrots ready. Put a little wall there to catch the little carrot pieces so they don't all go flying out of here. Alrighty. And we just get about a half a cup of carrot. And that goes in there. Alright, so here we have our celery, our carrot, and our onion. And that goes onto the oil. Alright. Well, while that is now frying, I will try to liberate a slotted spoon to stir this around, and that's going to act as an ability to kind of deglaze the pan. The idea is to scrape up all the little bits and pieces off the bottom of the pan. Let me see if I can get a little bit better angle by getting further away from me. There we go. All right. Little message from my daughter-in-law. All right. So now we gotta let these get cooked for a bit. Yep. I turned the heat off. Let me turn the heat back on. Let's give those a while and get those good and tender, and we'll go on the next part. Okay. Well, I think we're pretty much there. Got all the vegetables in here, the carrots and the onions and the celery. And got the bottom pretty well scraped clean. I think we've got that pretty well at hand. So, now for some of the magic. Okay, first thing we do, we put the meat back in with the vegetables now. Try to get all those juices and whatever back in there. Get that stirred around. Okay. So now we've got to get this cooked because we've got a good sear on the meat. But now we got to get it cooked. And we got to get it cooked with a little bit of vegetables and stuff that's in there. And so let me show you what I do on my beef stew. Whoop, let me go to the fridge. Okay, first ingredient, we add a little beef broth. Now, normally I would have my own beef and chicken broth here, and I would just use my own. But unfortunately, my cabin is unprepared this year. It will be in the future, but for now I'm going to have to use some store-bought. And now comes the last critical ingredient, beer. You cannot make a decent beef stew without having sufficient liquid in there. You got to add enough liquid to cover the top of the meat. Got to be just covered. So I add a little bit of beef broth, and now I add 2 cans of beer. Normally I'll have, 6 or 12 beers sitting around cold. Today I don't happen to have that. I had about 6 cans of warm sitting around. So I'm just adding those, and I think I'd like a little bit more liquid. So I'm going to add a little chicken stock to it. I just like the flavor the chicken stock brings to the party, and this gives me enough liquid to get to the top. There we go. Okay, that's got to go to the fridge. And there you have it. That's what we do. Now we put a lid on that. So that's not the right lid, but it'll work. And what we do now is we set the timer for about 45 minutes. And that's it. We leave that on medium high heat, and we just let that simmer for 45 minutes. And now while this is simmering, excuse me, while this is simmering, I'll get together the rest of the vegetables that I'll have to add once this gets going. And at that point we'll add some more stock to it, and we'll add in potatoes, carrots, onion, and of course then the 3 most important ingredients for my stew, and that is a turnip, a rutabaga, and a parsnip. Or unfortunately, as the girl at the grocery store checkout called it, the funky looking carrot thing. So, yep, got to have a parsnip, a rutabaga, and a parsnip, a turnip, and a rutabaga in there as to add to the flavor. You like those good hard vegetables. So those will be the next 3 things that go in, with some more carrots and potatoes and onion, and then that'll go again for another hour after that, and we'll have a good beef stew. So I'll check back with you when this is ready. So our vegetables and all have gone through their hour, and they are all beautifully cooked now, and we've got the meat cooked all the way through. We got our beef stock in here, and we got our vegetable stock and our beer, onions, celery, and some carrots. So now it's time to load this with the rest of the stuff. And what we're going to do, leave that covered. I'm going to start out with the hard rootstock vegetables because that's what takes the longest amount of time. Let me get those. And once again, the walk of shame, I actually had to go and buy vegetables. Alrighty then, we're getting down to the wire now. It is, it's had time to cook down. We had the meat all cooked down, and then you saw me real quickly cut up all the vegetables and add them. Turnip, rutabaga, parsnip, carrots, onion, potatoes. And now I've had that cooking here for, it's been about 40 minutes again. So the meat is really thoroughly cooked, and you can just see how rich and bright and colorful this stew is. Take a look. Let me have you take a look at this. You see how that's going along now? And so that's what we're at now, is we've got all that going and all that being done. All I got to do is add the very last thing now, which is my cut up celery. And I add this at the last minute, sort of, because it cooks really quickly. And I like to still have some celery texture left when I'm done. And now, here again, I'm going to go through and re-season everything at the last minute. So I like to add some more thyme, a little celery salt, in case you couldn't tell, I really like celery. This is my oregano, and lastly some basil. And some basil in there. Oh, no, one more thing. Add a little bit more garlic powder. And then, of course, we're down to the final seasonings. We're going to do some fresh cracked black pepper in there. All right. And lastly, some kosher salt. That's a big pot of stew, so we need quite a bit. All right. And that's the last of it now. Stir this in. I'm going to let this simmer for about 10 more minutes. Now, if I wanted to, I could add dumplings on top of this. And oh man, that would really be good. I would love to add some dumplings. But old Grandpa's trying to lose some weight. And so I'm not going to add dumplings to my beef stew. I just don't need the carbs. What I've got here is, really nice fresh vegetables and meat into a nice juicy stew. And get all that down into the broth. Ah, man, if you could smell this, it's just awesome. So now I'm going to leave it on a low simmer. On my stove, I put it at a 4. And I'm going to put the lid on it to get that kind of bubbly again. And then once it starts bubbling, I'll pull the lid off for about the last 5 minutes and let it reduce a little bit. And that's it. That's Grandpa's beef stew. It's just that simple. Well, hey, kids. Well, there you have it. So there was my beef stew recipe. And I couldn't end it without, well, showing you the finished product. So there it is. Right there is Grandpa's beef stew. I have a dog here that wants to play. I've got big old chunks of carrot in here and nice big pieces of celery. The meat is cooked just perfectly. Potatoes, onion. But the key ingredients to the stew and what kind of makes it special, besides adding the beer for the broth, which of course is necessary, and the beef stock and the chicken stock, you gotta have the turnip, you gotta have the rutabaga, and you gotta have the parsnip in there. But yeah, you gotta have the parsnip, the rutabaga, and the turnip in there. Those flavors. And in a stew the size I just made, I used one good size rutabaga, one good size turnip, and 2 parsnips in there. And it was just perfect. And you can see it kind of gives it a little bit lighter color. You can kind of see the turnip and the rutabaga and the parsnip. They're a little bit orangey yellow as opposed to the white of the potatoes or the red of the carrots. And they just bring a certain flavor that you just can't get in the beef stew unless you add those. So don't Don't ever make a beef stew without them. But anyhow, there it is. There's dinner. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. You know, there's dinner. And it came out just perfect. Just absolutely perfect. So, I am going to sit here and eat my dinner. And, well, you guys can like and subscribe and do all that kind of fun stuff. Anyhow, we're going to end this video here. Thanks, guys. I'm going to have dinner. You have yourself a really fine day. Bye. How about them toad suckers? Ain't they sappy? Sucking them toads all sure make them happy. Hug 'em mugger toad suckers way down south. Sticking them sucky toads in zay mouth. I be a toad sucker knowing a duck it. Just find an old toad and you rear back and suck it. Folks, you have a good day. Bye.